Welcome to the Big Cat Lounge podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm KZ, and today's guest grew up from New Jersey and now resides in Florida. Erin Lawler Patterson is the podcast host for The Goodness Chick. She's an international speaker, podcaster, author of Peace, Love, and Goodness, Lessons from the Drug Lady, Around the World with The Goodness Chick. She is a counselor and has been featured on Mental Health News Radio, ABC 8 News. Erin's passion is empowering others. For the past 20 years, she has dedicated her life to educating and empowering others on the topics of mental health, addiction, and the necessary connection in giving back. We welcome to the Big Cat Lounge podcast, The Goodness Chick.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Are you right now in Florida? Is that where you are?
Yeah, I'm in Florida. Yeah, just central, like Vero Beach. We're a few miles from the beach, about an hour and a half south of Orlando.
Okay.
So, and where are you located?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, nice. I like North Carolina. I actually went to college in North Carolina. So I lived there for a number of years. Beautiful state for sure.
Oh yeah, it's very nice. I've been here now. In Charlotte, I've been almost here for a year, and before that, I was in Raleigh for about 4.5 years. And
okay,
I really enjoy North Carolina. Before that, I was in the Northern Virginia area.
Okay,
It's a bit complete different change there. It's a hustle environment there. It's a lot of politicians live in that area, so it's very, very busy, and people are very stuck up there. It's very interesting to know, like, different cities, different vibes, and as you go around, like in North Carolina, for instance, it's a very chill and laid back environment. Most of even the companies here, even though they may be like based in New York, but because it's in North Carolina, they have a certain dress code. Like you can wear jeans, and people act a little bit different, which is like the Southern hospitality. I didn't think it was a real thing, but then I came here and I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm originally from New Jersey, and I lived down in North Carolina for probably, I guess, 5 or 6 years. And I loved it. Just people were super nice and laid back, and I definitely miss it. And I like Florida. It's just a totally different vibe.
Yeah.
Anywhere I can wear flip-flops, I'm totally game. So it works. I'm like, half the time I'm not wearing any shoes. So that's kind of my vibe.
Yeah, just to be in a relaxed environment, right? To have that creativity and that flow.
Yeah, for sure. So it's good things, and I'm glad it's summer. Even though it's super hot, I definitely, I'll take that for me over the winter.
Yeah, I grew up in half my life in Canada, actually, outside of Toronto. So yeah, the winters are pretty intense there versus North Carolina.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, I can't even. Yeah, oy vey.
I'm sure when you're in New Jersey, it's very similar. I mean, you're gonna get extreme weather there too. You're gonna get.
Oh God, it was so cold, man. At times, I'm like, no way.
And during that time, it's very difficult because people can't really do anything, because if you go outside, you get exposed to windshield, or you can your body can freeze up. You can get susceptible to being sick. So a lot of people don't want to do anything. Like after work, they won't go outside and get groceries because it's not possible.
Well, it's depressing. It's super depressing. Yeah, that's what I mean. We moved 2.5 years ago. We moved, from Jersey. I was overseas for a while.
Yeah.
And so actually not 2.5 years ago. For almost a year, we were overseas, and then ended up here. So I definitely have no regrets with that. No regrets.
Yeah.
So it's good things. Without doubt. And then how long have you been doing the podcast?
Yeah, it's fairly new. I guess we're like 8 episodes in.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And it's just with my co-host Chad. He's not going to be able to join today, but yeah, we just it was an idea that we always had conversations with one another, and we're just like, well, at this point, we might as well just capture it and just go from there. And right now, we've expanded. We're like an international status. We've have reached.
That's pretty cool. Good on you guys.
Yeah. Indonesia. We had a guest on. We're trying to get some guests from Australia, New Zealand, just different parts of the world that we don't get to learn much about with their culture, just what's going on there. So it's exciting times for us.
Yeah, good on you guys. That's good stuff. Yeah, there's just something pretty unique about podcasting, for sure. So I've been doing it a little over 2 years. I've been doing my show, so it's always room to learn.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's the people you connect with is pretty valuable and just neat. Makes the world a heck of a lot smaller.
It truly does. It truly does. And right now during this time, like it's unfortunate, but people are really addicted to their phones. Like as it is, people would continue to just mindlessly scroll through their social media feed. And now now more so than ever, like you're even working and people are still like multitasking and doing it like mindlessly.
Yeah.
Like it's really sad. It's unfortunate because they need you need to just focus your attention one thing, because if you're just scrolling mindlessly through this, you can get really trapped and go down a whirlwind of things, and you can let your thoughts just slip. Today's sponsor is Anchor FM app. Go download the free Anchor app today to get started. You can find it at your Play Store or App Store. It's everything you need to make a podcast, and it distributes everything for you so it can be heard on multiple platforms such as Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and many more. This is what I'm currently using right now to edit and record my podcast, and you can do so from your phone or computer. And the tools are really easy to use to help document the Big Cat Lounge journey. So what are you waiting for? Go today and download it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know there's and I've gotten into that a little bit with on my show, because I'm actually I spent a number of years as a clinical addictions counselor. And so I mean I don't practice right now, but just one of my people are just absolutely addicted and high anxiety connected to their cell phone use. So and that's just only gonna grow as time goes on.
Yeah, and then there's more and more platforms, and if people are trying to, get their digital marketing presence out there, they feel the need to, be in all these platforms and spend time posting. And then while you're doing that, of course, you're going to be consuming the feed or seeing something that's going across your screen. So it's difficult. It really is difficult to have that balance, to be able to
for
turn
sure.
off.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. I definitely agree with that one.
Oh. How do you feel about like homeschooling right now? Because it's really that's the need right now. I mean, unless because it's going to be virtual learning if you are going to the appropriate school, I guess, that has that. I'm not sure how it's laid out, what the plan is per like district, or what's going on for the education. Do you have any insight for Florida?
I mean, every single state is different, and I know most are kind of, at least on the East Coast, at that very pivotal point, like they're in the process of decision making. And every district, I would say, because my husband's a teacher, but I'm really not in the mix anymore. Every district kind of makes their own decisions, and whether that's countywide or whether that it's at their private schools. I mean, and then it really does come down to the parent, whether or not they are comfortable having their young person go back to school. Are the kid's going to have to wear masks? And right now it looks like in most schools that's what's going to have to happen. Are the days altered, kind of flip-flopped? You have educators that are kind of on edge a little bit in terms of what to expect or not to expect. I mean, this is just, everything's kind of, I think, almost everywhere, like kind of up in the air. And I know down south we start earlier than the north. I mean, I believe usually, like I think the 8th they were supposed to start down in Florida, and it things have been bumped. And it's a whole lot of just kind of unknown. And with that, we have people it's just super anxiety provoking. So, trying to figure things out, what's the best decision for everybody. And I think you've got to make the best decision for what works for your kid and what your family, and, kind of go from there. But I know I'm going to be homeschooling my son. He'll be in kindergarten. And, just because for us, it was, I just couldn't see my 5-year-old wearing a mask for the duration of the day. It was just my personal opinion. I work from home, podcasting, writing, used to do public speaking. Obviously that's not happening right now. So I do a lot of virtual stuff. So I can teach from home, but that's not the case for a lot of people. I mean, it's a really tough position for anybody to be in right now.
Yeah, it really is. Some of my coworkers, they had to just quarantine their children for 2 weeks because they had to send them to daycare because it's very difficult for them to, do their job as it is, which is like 55, 60 hours a week. And then also balance, making sure your child is fed or, making sure they're getting their education. So it can be very difficult right now just to have that balance. I mean, as it is, you'd have to pay for daycare to begin with, but now, you have to quarantine your children, which were used to, playing amongst one another on the street, doing everything that children do. And now we have to tell them they can't do that.
Yeah, it's opposite of, kind of our wiring, we're just social beings. And so this is like just super upside down, shaken backward. I mean, it's crazy. And I know, like, there've been times I just have a choice. I had to take my son with me, we're grocery shopping or wherever. And, you're a kid. So you're just initial react, you touch everything, you're curious. And it's like, no, it's crazy. So they're stressed out, the parents stressed out. It's like, it's just not fun. And, I don't know, it's a totally different terrain and you can't see your friends or, we have to social distance and all this vocabulary that a kid really shouldn't have to, be knowledgeable of what it is. And they are. And I know my son, like, I guess maybe a little more, about a month ago was the first time he saw some of his friends. And it was like, they just missed each other. They just want to play. They just want to run around, go to the playground, and playgrounds were, closed. And some of them here are kind of closing back up. And it's crazy train. And with that, there are going to come a lot of, mental health implications for like super years to come, from like suicide to heightened numbers with addiction, domestic violence and all the like, intense stuff that, we just need to be talking about.
And that's the thing, like not enough people are talking about it. We're so lucky that you're talking about it and having these discussions, but a lot of people just, they feel afraid or they just aren't aware. Maybe that's just what it is. Like even in corporate, like I don't know how corporations are dealing with it, but it needs to be addressed. But they're just maybe their approach is not there, or it's maybe people aren't just voicing their concern. I don't know. I've been in corporate now for 10 years, and it's very apparent that like certain management and just people that I'm interacting with like would need to seek some form of assistance, someone who's like being their mentor or just like providing some guidance to them to like, go seek some just some advice, even if they need to seek medical assistance. You just never know, but it's just, making sure that you're being there for them, like getting a reach and just having someone.
Yeah, it's a support network, and it's conveying to whoever, in the workplace, like it's not a red flag if you're seeking help. There's nothing, to me, like there seriously is no way that you can be 100% yourself of who you were like 6 months ago with everything that's gone on. And that's one of the things, like on my show, we've been talking about, I try not to like, fixate on certain topics. Like, I don't even know if that's the right word, but I've been talking about COVID a lot, and not in a negative sense, but just talking about like, my last show talking about, the power of like kindness on our mental health and kind of using it to like have health benefits and wellness benefits to, making the conversation about like, it's okay to not be okay. Like somebody who maybe's never struggled with anxiety before and like, why am I feeling this way? And am I a weirdo? You're not a weirdo. We're going through a pandemic, and, you're having to see people that you usually work with who might annoy you even, that you miss because you miss physical contact.
Yeah.
And then you go back to being in the workplace, and there's some places that might, have these expectations, like to go back to normal, which is really like, there's no normal right now. And normal is kind of an overused term. And just, I agree with you, like having that support system and conveying to people, whether they providing services or providing, the resources to say like, here's this number to call, or this place, or this place offers virtual counseling that's, covered under insurance. I mean, people need to talk.
Yeah.
And saying like, you're not weird for it. Or if, you've been home for 3 months working from home, and like, it's another outlet for a lot of people who struggle with addiction. I mean, like there's no boundaries, there's no structure. So it's been so easy to lapse back into whether it's drinking or pills, or whatever. It's a really crazy time for a lot of people. Or, I think of all these kids as an educator, I'm like, God, these kids who, school was a safe place for them. And now they're home with, the dad who drinks all day, or, the mom that has anger issues and is now, taking it out on their kid, or mom or dad lost their job and there's no food. I mean, there's so many facets of what's going on right now that like, we need to talk about and not make it like super depressing, but just like, what are we going to do? How are we going to help each other? We're all in this together, and providing resources, and like to say, hey, the pandemic's over, or saying whatever, 6 months and everything's super awesome. Well, that's not the case. That's denial. And that's, to me, kind of ignorance. Like, what are we going to do to just be better and stronger and offer the right support system and say it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to keep being not okay. Like, we're not supposed to go at life alone. So that's kind of like breaking it down, like, I think in just simple terms, like, dude, man, you got a lot of hurting people. And what are we going to do? Let's step up to the plate and help each other.
Exactly. And yeah, during this time, I've just been reflecting more and more. And that's part of the reason why I like launched our podcast, the Big Cat Lounge, just because I was like, this is an opportunity, a forum for those to really speak what's on their mind, and just, just speak what's going on, because you shouldn't feel the need to be afraid. You should just have a casual lounge discussion, and that's really what this is for, is just for those to just reflect and provide their perspective on things. And for you were able to write 3 books now, which is really, really exciting. You wrote The Peace, Love, and Goodness, A Higher Level of Goodness, Lessons from the Drug Lady, and Around the World with the Goodness Chick. That is so exciting. So how did it come together that you were able to craft 3 books? It can be very, difficult with all these thoughts, and, just like, how did you craft it? What was your process?
Well, for me, the first one started like I was a 14 years as a high school counselor working with kids. Like, I did crisis counseling, but also just like I did a lot of peer leadership stuff. And one of the things I used to talk to my kids about was like the importance of a bucket list. Like, what's your goal? What are you striving for? And I guess I was like 37. And one of my kids had said, hey, my kids had called me Lawler, my maiden name. And they're like, what's one of your bucket lists? I said, one of mine was back when I was in high school, when I had to write a bucket list for the first time. It was, I'm going to write a book by the time I'm 40. And they're like, well, how's that going for you? And I was like, well, I'm just kind of scribbling stuff down. It kind of kicked my butt into gear. I started writing, and I actually released my first book right before I turned 40, and it was Peace, Love, and Goodness, Lessons from the Drug Lady. And my kids used to call me the drug lady.
Yeah.
And so, which, is fine in a school. Outside of a school, you get some looks. But when you call me the drug lady, I'm like, don't judge me. But, it was like, it kind of a combination. It was like, how are we living our life? And I had stories from kids who graduated that were, adults, and like the lessons they learned, and talking about addiction and mental health, and what are we like to make us better. Like, it's, it was just super powerful stuff. Then my second book just kind of like poured out after that, maybe a year after that. And it was a higher level of goodness, and looking at like, striving just to like learn from one another, and stories that I believe that like the people we come in contact with every day, that we have no idea who they are. And a lot of times we can be kind of tools and judge people, because it's kind of human nature, and not looking at all the stuff they're going through. And it's not about therapizing everybody, but just being kind, being compassionate, empathetic, and being less inclined to judge. So that was my second book. And now the third one is actually coming out in about 2 weeks. And it's been retitled, and it's called Conversations for Good, Listening and Learning to our neighbors around the world. And what it's based on is, I quit my job. My husband retired early, and we, on our bucket list, was like, before we die, we want to go around the world. Well, everybody talks about that. I'm like, you know what? Our son's 3 years old. He's not in school. let's do it. So we bought a one-way ticket. We actually started in Romania, and we spent 10 months going around the world. And during that time, not only was it super awesome seeing things and meeting people, and I mean, just amazing, but my focus as a podcaster and writer and mental health advocate, if you will, was like to do a lot of volunteer work, but also shed light on these people who've been through stuff and took their stuff to fuel them to make a difference, and doing crazy cool things, from starting orphanages, to shelters, to schools, and all these people that, like this lady I met who I just is one of my heroes, man. Her name's Stana, and she, man, an amazing lady who actually I forget her whole family story, but was in Poland, and they had to flee years ago, like to safety, like she in a lorry, like left in the middle of the night, ended up in Cyprus, right? And she used her passion to actually, she dedicates her life to refugees. And I sat with her in a refugee camp in Cyprus, and with all these women, man, who were, I'm like, what, I felt like a total tool, like, why are you here? That's a stupid question, but peeling the layers back, like, hey, I fled Yemen. My family was the only one able to leave in my, out of my whole extended family. And, over 13 million people are facing famine, to like, my village was blown up. My, my brother was, macheted in front of me. I mean, these crazy stories. And it was like story after story after story. And so this is what this book is. It's like these people who are like bringing light to pockets of the world, like through kindness. And it's like this domino effect that's super cool. And it kind of follows my 10 months. So it's not like, hey, I ate this, rad cannoli in Italy, and, this is like where I Airbnb. It's more just like, life is rad. What are you doing with it? These beautiful people around the world that no one would otherwise, like in the States or in Canada, really hear about, and giving them a voice. And at the bottom of a number of the chapters, I actually have links like to their nonprofits to say, hey, if your heart leads you to, like, donate. You got $5, donate money, and it'll buy a pack of diapers. It'll buy rice for, like this guy I met, his name's Jit, who's now a dear friend of mine in Malaysia. He's Malaysian, went to college in Hawaii. I mean, and he, really had a whole life set before him. And he said, my heart was tugging at me. I needed to go back to serve my people, where it was like a 95% poverty rate. And he started this thing called Rock House. And literally they're feeding people every single week. They're starting a school. They're putting kids through. I mean, like his first set of kids that they've worked with just graduated high school. Like otherwise wouldn't have happened. And so using these passions, like literally changing people's lives. What, like, how cool is that? So that's what this book's about. I went on a rampage, but I get excited, like this, and talk, and how it connects to today, like where we're disconnected from people. We're so saturated with like our phones and social media. We're like more connected than ever, but we're not, we're more disconnected. And the power of like a cup of coffee with another human being and just asking questions and learning from each other. That's kind of what it's about.
It really is. It really is. And for me, like, now more than ever, like before I always thought about doing a podcast and recording, but I never really did it. And I was like, why wasn't I doing it? Like I should have always done this. Like I always enjoyed speaking with others. So why couldn't I just capture it? And now like even on LinkedIn, now I'm interacting with a lot of people, new people that I've never ever met before. And I'm learning, what's going on in their world, and learning their struggles and their pain. And if I can try and help them maybe with my experience, I'm going to try and share with them things so that they can maybe accelerate their learning. Because a lot of this is just, it's like not necessarily who but it's like the experiences and trying to figure out how to navigate. And that's what I'm here to share with, and just try and learn. Always try and learn.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it's about, like learning from each other. And, you don't have to agree with everything, but I mean, it's like, interacting with somebody from just with a different background, different part of a neighborhood or your state, like you just learn. And that's what absolutely podcasting is so cool, where like we're having a conversation and and it was really social media that allowed our paths to cross and learning from each other, which is so cool. I'm blown away by it. And some of the people that I've like had on my podcast, and I'm like, wow, man,
Mhm.
that just can rock your world in some really, really fantastic ways.
And you've done it now for what, over like 2.5 years or so?
Yeah, about 2.5. I
2.5 years?
think
Yeah.
this week I think it's like episode 131 or 132, something like that. So
Wow.
yeah. And some of them were pretty wild. Like when we were overseas, man, I mean, dude, some of I had one of my, actually it's so crazy. One of my kids that I worked with years ago, right? He's not a kid anymore. He's almost 30,
Yeah.
but he was like, they were like, yo, Vaughn's down in Bali, and we were in Bali, and I was like, sweet. So I like messaged him, and he was doing like master diving training or whatever, and we ended up hopping on a ferry, my husband, son, and I, and like just jamming down on the Noosa Islands for like a week. And like our paths crossed, but we did a podcast, like having a point with this, like literally was like in the jungle. I'm trying to like get Wi-Fi, talking with him about like the power of like minimalizing the things we have in life. And I'm like, dude, this is kind of ironic because like my computer's not even working right now, to like at a refugee camp where like, I mean, I didn't have sound equipment, right? I was able to like, I used my phone because I couldn't bring stuff in with me, and just audio recorded so you can hear wind and but I'm like in a refugee camp, what I mean, it was
Yeah.
like just like totally gnarly. Some of the experiences, and it was like trying my very best to be able to kind of bring my audience with me on the journey.
Mhm.
Which is hard to do when you're like there, but and we'll be, once COVID's whatever, wherever we're at, but we'll travel again, definitely not where we're like living overseas, but I don't know, that's, I think, one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves and our kids is travel.
Exactly.
Is just massive. I'm already like figuring out, like, in 6 months, can I, hop on a boat from Miami and get to, the Bahamas for a few days. I get itchy,
Yeah,
being
of course.
safe and all that stuff. But I'm like, in 6 months, can I go, or Costa Rica and
Yeah.
get some surf in? But yeah, man, there's just travel. It is this unlimited resource that we don't tap into enough.
Yeah, we really don't. And then once you get the passport, that's the thing. A lot of my friends and
Oh
everyone that I
gosh.
connect with, they're always like, "Oh yeah, I'll do it." And I'm like, "Well, first you got to go through the process to get
Yeah,
the
yeah,
passport. Once you get the passport, then you open up to anything. Then you can't
yeah.
just say, "Oh, I'm not going to do it." You have the passport, you just have to book the flight now.
Yeah, and you could, I mean, people were, their first, a number of people's first response when we were like, we could quit our jobs, we're going around the world. They're like, like, that's got to be nice that that you're doing that, like, in a way of like how much money was going to cost. I said, well, here's the deal. We spent less money overseas than if we were living in New Jersey. We did things really, efficiently without compromising the quality of what we're doing. I mean, we lived like locals. We didn't stay in hotels for 10 months. We stayed at Airbnbs. We stayed in flats that were like right downtown and walking distance. I mean, it was like so authentic, but it was cheaper than if we were living in the States, I mean, and we did stuff that was just, it was awesome. And it was a lot of planning,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And your heart might not be like, I want to go for a year. We'll go for a week, and that meets your budget. And where does your heart pulling you? That, so many people I've met, especially, and I'm very proud to be an American. I truly am, but a lot of Americans make a heck of a lot of excuses. I think it's like 90% of Americans don't have a passport. I'm like, dude, like, and that's where we get in this like isolated bubble. Like, everybody, like, I remember the first time I was in Italy and I was like mortified. There's this dude ahead of me, like banging his fist. He was an American. Like, why don't you speak English at the ticket booth? I'm like, you're in Italy, you butthead. Like, but that's the mentality. Like, everybody should speak English. You're a moron. Like,
Yeah,
if you're a visitor and guest somewhere else, you better learn how to say hello and thank you and please. And, just 3 or 4 words just to try.
Mhm.
Right. And that's one of the things, like, every country, we hit 23 countries, every country, I'm going to say, please, hello, thank you. And I'm not going to be able to speak the language, but give an effort. I'm in your homeland.
Mhm. I'm gonna try and, like, do some form of gesture or something. Like, yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes
Something.
sometimes
Hello.
people are
Hello.
just reckless, and you can tell that you're a foreigner because you're just like acting reckless, like you own the place.
Yeah. Oh God. I'm like, don't embarrass. And there's some phenomenal travelers that have come across from the States, in Canada. I do think sometimes there's a mentality that, like, because we're kind of isolated, We're not like Portugal, or Turkey, or we're like that, you're just kind of like in a melting pot and surrounded by other countries. It's easy to, lose sight of that. People think, different than us, or have different cultures, or different, we're a super melting pot, this world. And that's when you travel. I think it just makes you appreciate life, and how rad it is to find different types of people in the world. I don't know. That's just kind of my mindset.
Yeah, no, it really is. It really is. It's so unique, just learning from others and being able to experience. Yeah, I've just, over these past couple months now, just I've had so many interactions with just interesting people, and I'm able to learn and hopefully just take it with me and just be able to reflect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's most important, for sure.
Yeah, so I see that on your website you say a CBD oil right for you. So have you been using CBD oil for some time now? I know it recently became more of a craze, I guess, because they started like legalizing hemp, but there was always an opportunity, I think, to get access to it, but it just wasn't marketed necessarily, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Like the CBD that I've been using, I guess about a year and a half, 2 years. I don't know. I use personally for anxiety, and somebody, like, I've been in the mental health field now for, it's crazy to say, like 20 years. And I think medication can do some amazing things, right, when used appropriately. But I also believe we're kind of a society that's very quick. Like, I have a scrape, or I'm feeling funky, I pop a pill, right? I
Oh
just
yeah.
think we're kind of like a vending machine here. And so I am also very much like, I don't know, I've always been kind of, you're a hippie, granola, whatever. I just believe in, using things that kind of come from the earth, as long as they have value. And CBD, I use CBD that does not see. CBD is not psychoactive. It's not addictive. And it, is hemp based.
Yeah.
When I tell you the potential and value is just massive, whether it be arthritis, glaucoma, insomnia, ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression. I mean, it's crazy. And it's so underutilized, and now it's like kind of blowing up a lot. I've had conversations with people that they'll ask me, what do you think about it? And I'll tell them, and they're like, oh, I would never use that stuff. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, they're just thinking, you're sitting in your living room smoking a bong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, and I do THC, it absolutely has medicinal value for what I use it for. I use CBD only.
Yeah.
I use oil. I use a CBD ointment. Dude, it is, I believe implicitly in it. I've talked about it extensively. I say to anybody, just do your research, choose what you want to do for you. There's nothing addictive about CBD. You get a drug test, you're not testing positive because there's no THC in it, and just educate yourself. I mean, I would work with parents that are like, my kid can't show up to school because they're so anxiety ridden, right? And they were taking anti-anxiety meds. They were whatever, like they're almost paralyzed with anxiety, or they're super stressed out. And I'd say, like, listen, have you thought about CBD oil? And most of the parents were very open-minded to it. I'm like, just do your research, right? It's legal. And I will tell you, a number of them at the end of the school year called me. Last year I was there especially, and said, Erin, I'm going to tell you, my kids' attendance and their attitude and their behavior totally changed. And it was after them starting to take CBD. And I'm like, dude, are you like, and it just drives me insane that there's a stigma attached to these things. There's no stigma attached to, like, I'm going to take, whatever, Xanax and like all these, and I'm not bashing medication, but we're so narrow-minded. It drives me insane. I mean, so many people that are then addicted to medication, or I'll take this med and there's all these other side effects. I'm like, all right, this is my personal belief. I do not cast that upon anybody else. I'm not speaking for all mental health professionals, but I will say I've seen it change people's lives. And yeah, I plug it on my website. I do. I'm an affiliate of CBD Pure. Like I swear by it. It's just, most of my family members take it. My dad has like wicked knee issues, and he's been taking CBD and it helps, right? CBD cream, it helps. To me, it's worth researching.
It is. And the thing is, it's unfortunate, but a lot of the doctors and the medical professionals, even though it is legal, they're not like, I don't know, maybe incentivized to promote it, or maybe they know that there are benefits, but they just don't want to put their name beside it. Because I feel like, every time I've been to the doctor, or just anytime my wife's a nurse, and just in general, like I don't hear like doctors saying, oh yeah, you should try some CBD oil.
Yeah. And
Like,
it's a shame because they're really wired, right? Like they're just taught and it's instilled like meds. And, I remember when I was first, I did a internship, Hello
oh yeah,
Fest. And I remember talking with the psychiatrist, like right after, having one of my, I don't know, it was like 2 or 3 weeks in, I was like, this patient is demonstrating da, 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 da. And it was like the first time I sat with him. And he was like, well, I can write a script. I was like, yo, calm, slow things down, Pilgrim. Where, like, we don't even, to me, you've got to sit with somebody for a few sessions. Let's dig a little bit, because throwing a pill initially until you really get to the root of things. And for some people, if it's like, I can't sleep, I've got this, I've got that, mild medication can be introduced. But I just think it's too quickly inclined to say like, yo, here's a med, here's a pill here. And it drives me insane, man, where I'm like, you start CBD and it just really, I mean, dude, has so many benefits. It's crazy. And I'll say, hop on Google, do some like literal medical research. It's out there.
yeah,
And unfortunately, you can only get, up to certain percentages in the States. I met a guy when I was in Indonesia who, this is what he does. He sells like super, super high levels of CBD for with cancer and for, super intense medical conditions. And he's like, it's saved and changed people's lives, but there's too much money. And I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories here, but like in the pharmaceutical community, like it's a multi-billion-dollar company where people, like look at OxyContin, they push that stuff on people and it's safe is what they told everybody. And people are dying. They're hooked on it because it's the non-synthetic form of heroin. Everything's about money, dude. I mean, absolutely everything. And I say, do your research, check it out, and and then decide for yourself.
yeah. And right now, a lot of people are consuming information different ways. So the healthcare companies are still promoting their ads, but it just depends. Hopefully people aren't, consuming that necessarily. I know anytime, I don't have cable, but when I used to have cable, I know like at least like every other commercial had a medical ad or something.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's money.
Yeah, everything's money driven. Thank you so much for coming on the Big Cat Lounge podcast. Where can the world find more about the Goodness Chick?
You can find me at goodnesschick.com, or on all forms of social media. I am the Goodness Chick. So check me out, follow me. Book will be out in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you can purchase my other 2 on Amazon. And I thanks for having me on the show today. And I hope you guys will check me out and follow. I'd appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.